Welcome, kind listener. My name is Gentle Fox. You may not know me now, but by the end of this masterpiece, you will, and I trust you'll think of me as an old friend. What you'll be hearing tonight is an excerpt from our Twitch stream. I hope you'll enjoy that extra ambiance and my soft-spoken voice as we explore Leo Tolstoy's classic, Anna Karenina. Chapter 22. The ball had only just begun when Kitty and her mother went up the big, light-flooded stairway, set with flowers and lackeys in powder and red livery. From the inner room drifted a steady rustle of movement, as in a beehive, and while they were adjusting their hair and dresses in front of a mirror between potted trees on the landing, the cautiously distinct sounds of the orchestra's violins came from the ballroom, beginning the first waltz. A little old man in civilian dress, who had been straightening his gray side whiskers at another mirror, and who exuded a smell of scent, bumped into them by the stairway and stepped aside, obviously admiring Kitty, whom he did not know. A beardless young man, one of those young men of society whom the old Prince Sherbatsky called twits, wearing an extremely low-cut waistcoat, straightening his white tie as he went, bowed to them, and, after running past, came back to invite Kitty to a quadrille. The first quadrille had already been given to Vronsky. She had to give this young man the second. A military man, buttoning his glove, stepped aside at the doorway and, stroking his mustache, eyed the pink Kitty. Though Kitty's toilette, coiffure, and all the preparations for the ball had cost her a good deal of trouble in planning, she was now entering the ballroom in her intricate tulle gown over a pink underskirt as freely and simply as if all these rosettes and laces and all the details of her toilet had not cost her and her household a moment's attention, as if she had been born in this tulle and lace, with this tall coiffure topped by a rose with two leaves. When the old princess at the entrance to the ballroom wanted to straighten the twisted end of her ribbon sash, Kitty drew back slightly. She felt that everything on her must of itself be good and graceful, and there was no need to straighten anything. Kitty was having one of her happy days. Her dress was not tight anywhere. The lace bertha stayed in place. The rosettes did not get crumpled or come off. The pink shoes with high, curved heels did not pinch, but delighted her little feet. The thick braids of blonde hair held to her little head like her own. All three buttons on her long gloves, which fitted but did not change the shape of her arms, fastened without coming off. The black velvet ribbon of her locket encircled her neck with particular tenderness. This velvet ribbon was enchanting, and at home, as she looked at her neck in the mirror, she felt it could almost speak. All the rest might be doubted, but the ribbon was enchanting. Kitty also smiled here at the ball as she glanced at it in the mirror. In her bare shoulders and arms she felt a cold, marble-like quality that she especially liked. Her eyes shone, and her red lips could not help smiling from the sense of her own attractiveness. She had no sooner entered the ballroom and reached the gauzy, ribbony, lacy, colorful crowd of ladies waiting to be invited to dance. Kitty never stayed long in that crowd. Then she was invited for a waltz, and invited by the best partner, the foremost partner of the ball hierarchy, the celebrated dirigiteur of balls, the master of ceremonies, a trim, handsome, married man, Yegorushka Korsunsky. Having only just abandoned Countess Benin, with whom he had danced the first round of the waltz, and surveying his domain, that is, the few couples who had started dancing, he saw Kitty come in, hastened to her with that special loose amble properly only to the dirigeurs of balls, bowed and without even asking her consent, held out his arm to put it around her slender waist. She turned, looking for someone to hold her fan, and the hostess, smiling, took it. "How nice that you came on time," he said to her, putting his arm around her waist. "What is this fashion for being late?" Bending her left arm, she placed her hand on his shoulder, and her small feet in their pink shoes began to move quickly, lightly and rhythmically across the slippery parquet in time with the music. "It's restful waltzing with you," he said to her, falling in with the first, not yet quick, steps of the waltz. "Lovely, such lightness, precision," he said to her what he said to almost all his good acquaintances. She smiled at his compliment and went on, examining the ballroom over his shoulder. She was not a new debutante, for whom all the faces at every ball, for whom I lost my place. She smiled at his compliment and went on examining the ballroom over his shoulder. She was not a new debutante, for whom all the faces at a ball blend into one magical impression. Nor was she a girl dragged to every ball, for whom all the faces are so familiar that it is boring. She was in between the two. She was excited, but at the same time self-possessed enough to be able to watch. In the left-hand corner of the room, she saw grouped the flower of society. There was the impossibly bared, beautiful Lady, Korsunski's wife. There was the hostess. There gleamed the bald head of Kriven, always to be found with the flower of society. Young men not daring to approach gazed in that direction, and there her eyes picked out Stiva, and then noticed the lovely figure and head of Anna, who was in a black velvet dress. And there he was. Kitty had not seen him since the evening she refused Levine. With her far-sighted eyes, she recognized him at once, and even noticed that he was looking at her. "What now? Another turn? You're not tired?" said Korsunski, slightly out of breath. "No, thank you. Where shall I take you?" "Mademoiselle Karenina is here, I think. Take me to her." "Wherever you choose." And Korsunski waltzed on, measuring his step, straight towards the crowd in the left-hand corner of the ballroom, repeating, "Pardon, mesdames, pardon, mesdames," and maneuvering through that sea of lace, tulle, and ribbons without snagging one little feather. He twirled his partner so sharply that her slender lace-stockinged legs were revealed, and her train swept up, fan-like, covering Kriven's knees. Korsunski bowed, straightened his broad shirt-front, and offered her his arm to take her to Anna Arkadyevna. Kitty, all flushed, removed her train from Kriven's knees, and, slightly dizzy, looked around, searching for Anna. Anna was not in lilac, as Kitty had absolutely wanted, but in a low-cut black velvet dress, which revealed her full shoulders and bosom, as if shaped from old ivory, and her rounded arms with their very small, slender hands. The dress was all trimmed with Venetian guipure lace. On her head, in her black hair, her own without admixture, was a small garland of pansies, and there was another on her black ribbon sash among the white lace. Her coiffure was inconspicuous. Conspicuous were only those willful little ringlets of curly hair that adorned her, always coming out on her nape and temples. Around her firm, shapely neck was a string of pearls. Kitty had seen Anna every day, was in love with her, and had imagined her inevitably in lilac. But now, seeing her in black, she felt that she had never understood all her loveliness. She saw her now in a completely new and, for her, unexpected way. Now she understood that Anna could not have been in lilac, that her loveliness consisted precisely in always standing out from what she wore, that what she wore was never seen on her, and that the black dress with luxurious lace was not seen on her. It was just a frame, and only she was seen, simple, natural, graceful, and at the same time gay and animated. She stood, as always, holding herself extremely erect, and when Kitty approached the group, was talking with the host, her head turned slightly towards him. "No, I won't cast a stone," she replied to something, "though I don't understand it." She went on, shrugging her shoulders, and with a tender, protective smile, turned at once to Kitty. After a fleeting feminine glance of her dress, she made a barely noticeable but for Kitty, understandable movement of her head, approving of her dress and beauty. "You even come into the ballroom dancing," she added. "This is one of my most faithful helpers," said Korsunsky, bowing to Anna Arkadyevna, whom he had not yet seen. "The princess helps to make a ball gay and beautiful. Anna Arkadyevna, a turn on the waltz?" he said, inclining. "So you're acquainted?" asked the host. "With whom are we not acquainted? My wife and I are like white wolves. Everybody knows us," replied Korsunsky. "A turn of the waltz, Anna Arkadyevna?" "I don't dance when I can help it," she said. "But tonight you can't," replied Korsunsky. Just then Vronsky approached. "Well, if I can't help dancing tonight, let's go then," she said, ignoring Vronsky's bow, and she quickly raised her hand to Korsunsky's shoulder. "Why is she displeased with him?" thought Kitty, noticing that Anna had deliberately not responded to Vronsky's bow. Vronsky approached Kitty, reminding her about the first quadrille and regretting that until then he had not had the pleasure of seeing her. While she listened to him, Kitty gazed admiringly at Anna waltzing. She expected him to invite her for a waltz, but he did not, and she glanced at him in surprise. He blushed and hastened to invite her to a waltz, but he had only just put his arm around her slender waist and taken the first step when the music suddenly stopped. Kitty looked into his face, which was such a short distance from hers, and long afterwards, for several years, that look, so full of love, which she gave him then, and to which he did not respond, cut her heart with tormenting shame. "Pardon, a waltz, a waltz!" Korsunsky cried out from the other side of the ballroom, and, snatching up the first girl he met, began to dance.